Yeah, Anthony, thank you for your presentation. I think we will then take the questions at the end. I'm actually going to repeat some of the key points that Anthony has already stressed on, and also GIZ, the previous speaker, because I think it really resonates a lot with what we are doing and the work we have in the region. So first of all, thank you very much, and thank you for this invitation, even if it was a bit last minute, but really happy to be here, and greetings on behalf of the ILO. I just work across the road at the ILO office here in Pretoria, but covering Eastern and Southern Africa. So what I'm bringing here is some experience from the global program and from the region as well. I will try to maybe go fast on the approach and then focus on the specific projects that we have. But I think it's important to address the questions on just transition and where it comes from, because I think as International Labour Organization, we are among the responsible ones to having promoted the concept for many years at our International Labour Conference and through our constituency. For those who don't know the ILO, we work with a tripartite constituency, which is government, employers organizations, and workers organizations. So this is why the debate has been very much centered on the just concept. So the why the ILO is working on this area, perhaps it's clear maybe, but to stress on the fact that the main thinking behind and over the years has been that jobs are at risk due to climate change or environmental impacts, and not only jobs are at risk, but we also have a positive potential narrative, which can be that this green transition or environmental transition, just transition, can actually bring and lead to a lot of job creation if we take the right measures and approaches at the level of policies and strategies and implementations. But also looking at the shift to green economies, we have also to take into account that together with job creation, which is a fact that we are noticing at global level, there is also, there are other dynamics. So the majority of jobs will actually be changed, transformed, substituted, and lost. So how do we deal with these other three factors? Not only with job creation, we are very happy about it, and I think the idea is to promote as much as possible. But for all the jobs that are changing, the occupation that are changing, what are the right measures to be put in place to ensure that the transition is just? So if you're interested in the concept of just transition, we adopted the global guidelines of a just transition towards environmentally sustainable economies and societies. So that's the title behind just transition. We are not looking only at environmental transition, as the green economy has boosted over the years, but also the socially and economically viable transition. So it goes back to the concept of sustainable development, basically, those three pillars. So as we tackle environmental challenges and opportunities, how do we protect societies in an inclusive way so that there is space for everybody to benefit and economies to be sustainable and productive? And it's always been the tricky balance between these three pillars. We know it since the sustainable development discussion, and just transition is really putting again the emphasis on that. Within the just transition guidelines, you can read a series of areas of intervention. So it's a recipe made of different policy interventions and strategies. You can find ideas for macroeconomic policies, sectoral policies, growth and enterprise-oriented policies, but then also skills development, occupational safety and health, social protection, active labor market policies, gender inclusion, labor standards. So it's a full package that then every country has to reshape and customize according to what is happening in the countries and what are the needs. But the idea is that it's not only really looking at jobs and enterprises, which are absolutely important, otherwise we don't have the numbers, but then the protection packages that go with it, through social protection, through occupational safety and health, and the rest. Skills is an important dimension. We will now discuss why. Maybe just to mention another global initiative that followed the adoption of the Just Transition guidelines was the launch of the Climate Action for Jobs. This is now the flagship initiative for our organization to engage at country level. And we have 46 countries that have already expressed an interest around the world to adopt just transition strategies. And this is a framework for action that we use to accelerate the numbers. And for example, we have launched a global accelerator for jobs and social protection to work to join efforts in while creating jobs, extending social protection coverage as well across different countries. Now, coming to skills, and I will let you read the report if you are interested, but we've done 2 global studies that basically built on national country reports, and South Africa was part of it. So most of the findings that you find here also speak to the context of South Africa. The first study was in 2011. The second one added a few countries so that it covers now 32 countries. And the main objective was to look at 2 main scenarios, because when we define green economy, we have also to be specific which scenarios we are talking about. There are many other possible scenarios. We analyzed mainly 2. Energy sustainability, which means the decarbonization of the economy, and circular economy. You can find in the reports the details, but basically is comparing the business as usual, the 6 degrees Celsius scenario that we're in now, compare it to the below 2 degrees Celsius from an energy sustainability perspective, meaning we invest in decarbonization, energy efficiency, renewables, energy integration, or in a circular economy scenario where we invest more in waste management, recycling, reusing, reducing, and re-inputting waste into the productive economy. Both have interesting figures, and if you look at it, and this is where it comes to skills, basically we have a positive net figure of job creation, which can be 20 million new jobs in energy sustainability, and then 78 million in a circular economy scenario. These are global figures. One could argue that, because then we should discuss in depth how jobs are defined, but let's say they are quite moderate estimated. They are not even the most positive. There could be more numbers, but let's stay within these numbers. And then let's look at the job losses, or jobs at risk, maybe not totally lost, but at risk of destruction. So out of those millions, which are quite a lot, by the way, in the circular economy scenario, we have to look at those that can be reallocated and those that cannot be reallocated. So some jobs can find direct reallocation into new sectors because the set of skills is pretty much the same, or require a very limited interventions. Other jobs, they won't find space unless we promote upskilling and reskilling strategies. So this is the whole history about why skills is important, because it could increase the number of reabsorption capacities of our economies for those jobs whose set of skills as given is not directly possible to utilize. So then we look at it into details in each country. Maybe just a mention to the gender dimension, because you were asking about just transition and the elements. We also have to look at those numbers in the sense that, according to our studies, if no particular intervention is made, the just transition interventions or the green economy, let's say, transitions are likely to benefit more male workers in the mid-skill set level, unless we take action to address gender integration, which means also reorienting youth and female into career paths and curricula that can open up more job opportunities. So just to say that the gender dimension doesn't come by default, it has to be worked out through different strategies. And as I was saying, the majority of the intervention and the opportunities and possibilities stand with the medium-skilled occupations. And we analyze normally then at country level under those type of skills, which, first of all, which occupations they can unlock, and then which skills development, TVET development intervention they need to apply. So of course, we are looking a lot at technical and vocational education and training because it's the one covering the majority of those set of medium skills. Other skill sets are also important, but the bulk of the big numbers and job creation belongs to that set of skills. I won't go into the detail. I encourage you to have a look at the report. What is important when it comes to skills development and then linking it to job creation, as Anthony was saying, because you cannot just generate skills. You don't have, if there is not enough absorption capacity. So when we go at country level or sectoral interventions, we disaggregate by occupations and by occupational profiles, and look at those jobs that experience potential job creation, but also potential job destruction and risk of high loss in terms of job numbers. Looking at those, then we apply a lens of understanding which skills overlap between the declining and the growing industries. And there is a good set of skills, which includes a lot of the skills, so-called the core employability transfer, even technical transferable skills. So those are the set of skills that can be used because they allow immediate reintegration into new occupations. And then there are new skills which are in higher demand, but that those occupations do not possess. And this is how training, retraining, upskilling, or as you want to call it, programs should look at. So how do we, first of all, enhance the core portability skills, both on the technical and soft side, that can go across occupations? And then how do we reorient training programs to fill the gap towards the skills in higher demand? Of course, that requires a continuous dialogue with industry. Because very often the critical skills lists that our countries produce or the studies that we do take years just to make all these projections. These are useful studies, but we need a more agile and dynamic discussion between training providers and industry to be sure that we increase our capacity to detect the skills in demands in the near future. This is just one example. And then after that, we design transition paths for the specific occupations. And I insist on the word occupation because technical transferable skills may be specific to an occupation, but that doesn't mean that they are specific to a job. If they are specific to an occupation, that occupation can be found in different sectors. So that's maybe the core message that is important to retain, that when we look at the potential for skills development and job creation, the focus is really on the occupational profiles. And so the idea is to now work with countries to identify those transition paths for different type of occupations that are in demand. And of course, then to go to the specific examples, we have to look at what the country economy is about, what is the industry in the country, and what are the sectors that are policies are investing on. So similar reasoning in the area of circular economy, so I won't go through it because the approach is really very much the same, maybe with the difference, as we have seen the numbers before, that in the circular economy we have bigger numbers both on the job creation side and on the job loss side. So there the skills development intervention has to be very specific to address totally new reskilling and upskilling strategies into new sectors and into new occupations that didn't exist before. Last but not least, when we do our analysis, as I said, we look at the core employability skills. The ILO has adopted recently a new framework of what we call the core skills for the future, for future employability under the future of work agenda. And as you see, there are new skills that have become, that have entered under the definition of core skills. No, environmental awareness in all skills related. We don't call them normally green skills, just a terminology peculiarity, because we think that green skills are very difficult to define. We talk about green jobs, which are measurable. Skills are normally skills related to environmental sustainability or skills for greening of economies. These are a bit easier to be defined. But you will see environmental awareness is now part of the core employability skills. So is the basic digital skills, which I think is also important to enhance entrepreneurial skills. So these are normally emerging as the set of skills that workers can carry across their lifetime and across different occupations. References to studies that you can read if you are more interested into digging into the analysis. Maybe just to flag that we have a new booklet coming up, which is on the greening of TVET institutions. We have piloted it in a few countries in Africa, in SADC countries, particularly in Zimbabwe, but also in Asia. It's about the full cycle from a TVET institution perspective and from TVET authorities as well and players in the technical vocational education and training. So it's also, again, looking at taking into account the findings of the studies, where occupations are going, how our TVET systems and institutions can respond from a very practical way. So we're also looking at opportunities to roll out this program, which is an institutional capacity building program for TVET institutions. Examples of projects in the region. We have very different type of interventions, and here I'm stepping out a bit of this strictly skills-oriented discussion, because first of all, we can work at policy level and at job assessment level. So we conduct the type of studies that I briefly mentioned. We conduct them at country level as well, upon demand. So a country may ask us, we want to implement a policy which has a job creation target in a number of sectors. How can we estimate the number of jobs, and how can we identify the type of skills? So that's the typical study that it's in demand from countries. More and more we do sectoral analysis, because we found them more accurate in designing the solution and in getting the buy-in from industry, because you really talk to the needs of the specific sector. And then a lot of other interventions which can be support to policies and strategies for green economy, for green jobs creation. And as I said, we have 48 countries now committed to a just transition. Countries that have included these elements into their NDCs. That's also a very good opportunity to initiate some interventions. I would conclude with two projects that we have recently launched in Zambia. It covers not only Zambia, but the SADC region, and it's a public-private development partnership project called Skills for Energy in Southern Africa. Here the focus is to look at 3 dimensions of energy: renewable energy, energy efficiency, and regional energy integration, and to unlock skills development in these 3 sectors. So more power technicians, engineers, managers in the SADC region through new technical skills training program to be designed. It has a specific objective also to support a training institution, which is the Kafugorje Regional Training Center in Zambia as a center of excellence, but we work also with other training providers in the region. And most of all, it tries to unlock those partnerships that we were talking about. So not only developing skills programs, but in enabling the partnering of TVET institutions with private sector entities and small and medium enterprises, especially to encourage work-based learning and job creation. In South Africa, to conclude, we have worked on the green economy for many years together with the partners here, so there has been a lot of work under the Partnership for Action on Green Economy, but more recently, just a very small intervention, we have conducted a study on opportunities and challenges for just transition in 2 specific provinces, in Free State and then in 2 districts in Mpumalanga. And this is based on methodology that the ILO has adopted, which is a rapid situational analysis to find entry points for just transition. It has been demanded by the local governments, as you can see there in the 2 provinces. So at the moment it's just a scoping study, but we are looking at opportunities to implement some of the recommendations at the local level. So I very much agree with the idea of going local again to find the solutions, because very often, first of all, provinces and districts, they have their own plans and strategies very clear, and then you find a way to address very specific problems and find local solutions. So we would be happy to carry out this discussion on how to move on from the initial studies and the entry points that we have identified into concrete strategies for action. So I will just stop here, and thank you very much for your attention. There are many other projects in the regions. I just mentioned these 2 because they are linked to South Africa, but if you're interested also to know what we do in other countries, we are happy to share more. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Alice. We now have an opportunity for some questions to both Anthony and Alice, and if you still have other questions for Zinni or myself, we can entertain that as well. I see a hand back there. Can we have the mic? Sybil, one more question?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Noma Kukundlela. Hi, Alicia. I have a specific question directed to you about the studies that you spoke about in Mpumalanga and the Free State. Are they ready for public consumption? Do you have any plan in place to pilot or roll out any kind of training for just transition? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe I start with this last one. We're almost there. It was the plan now is first to have a dialogue with the stakeholders that have been involved directly, and then yes, we are ready to circulate it perhaps in the next month or so. The idea is to then organize dialogues to inform action. So the studies provide a series of entry points, but it's not up to us to decide which one to take on board. So the idea is to engage with tripartite plus dialogues and decide together with the stakeholders which actions. But yes, the idea is to move forward, and you can also contact me maybe if you want to read the study once it's available. I'm happy to share it. The first one is a bit more difficult question. What can be done? I think many things could be done. I start responding very generally, and maybe our colleagues here can also provide some inputs. I think one key ingredient is this joint supply and demand approach. I don't think any just transition intervention can work if we only look at one side of the story. So perhaps looking at what I see and what I know about South Africa at the moment is we need the jobs. We need to create jobs. We need to address the big unemployment figures. So the skilling and the skills development part can help that, but it's not the only bottleneck. There are probably other areas to be addressed to unlock the job potential. So I would say to start with the conversation, and then we can become more specific, is to look at both sides and to look at employment creation from different perspectives, including entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial development. And then the skills dimension, if you want, if we have a clear direction on where the job opportunities can go, then the skills is just a practical solution on how do we get there. That's my personal view. I don't think we can only rely on skills development to create jobs. It is an important dimension. And there are a lot of mismatches, a lot of gaps, and a lot of employers that keep saying we don't have the right skills. But where are the big job creation opportunity? I think this is the first question.
Thank you very much. I have a lady at the back there. Anybody else after that? Let's take 2 questions. I had that gentleman previously, so I'll come back to you later. Carry on.
Good afternoon. I want to ask regarding the skills development. So after you have transferred the knowledge, do you set up a standard of payment on how the company is supposed to pay those people? As in a minimum wage, do you do a setup, or do they have to continue doing trainings and trainings and trainings after you have transferred those skills? That's what I want to know. And I think it's important after transferring the skills to set up, maybe say, this is the minimum wage that these kind of people are supposed to get, so that you don't just transfer skills and at the end of the day, those people don't get employed, because whatever the amount they're going to get on the environment, it will be less than what it can sustain them. Because remember, in the process of learning, we need to earn. And in the process of earning, we earn because we want to live. There is goals to be reached, not only to continue on developing the skills that doesn't do anything at the end of the days.
Thank you. The gentleman there at the back, far left.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the beautiful presentations. Good afternoon. Thank you for the beautiful presentations. My name is Jay from the Platinum Incubator in Rustenburg. I just wanted to ask, do you fund any SMMEs and researchers, meaning someone who's doing maybe their master's or doctoral studies? And if yes, to both questions, what kind of things are you looking in the what kind of things are you looking for in them? Meaning, what kind of businesses do you fund, and scholars? Is it only those who are doing engineering and stuff like that? Thank you.
Who are you addressing those questions to?
Okay, it can be anyone who presented. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Allow me then to respond to the last questions. The NCPC do not fund those activities, unfortunately, but I do encourage you to engage with us, and we may be in a position to direct you in the right direction. Alice, did you want to take the other question?
Yeah, I think just on the issue of earning while learning. Yeah, so I mean, I think that the issue of workplace learning is a critical component of our program, because I know that, and I think someone mentioned earlier around, you know, young people coming out of N6s and you know, and not getting your workplace experience that can allow you to get your national diploma. We talked about their P1 and P2 as well. So I think, you know, those are critical for us, as a critical gap. You know, if you can't get access to work-based learning, then you really sit at a kind of a crossroads, because there's, you know, as you know, without the workplace learning, you don't get the first foothold into the labor market. We work on the basis that, look, you can't control all the variables, but we incentivize SMEs to take on young people and train them, right? There is definitely a minimum wage involved in that, so we have to, as business, you know, signed up to the fact that we will respect the minimum wage. So any interventions that we do, we adhere to that principle. So we raise the funding through various mechanisms to support the payment of learners while they're doing their workplace learning. Right? So for that period of 9 months or however long it is, we act actually as the lead employer, because the problem with SMEs particularly is that they struggle to take young people onto their payroll and onto their books, especially if they're very small. So we make it easier for the SMEs. We act as the lead employer. We take this candidates onto our payroll, and we pay the UIF and all of those sorts of things. So we become the lead employer. We expect the SME to be the host employer. That's for the period of the 9 months so that they're doing the workplace learning. We would hope that during that period, if we're getting that SME, productive labor, and they can see the value of that labor, then in the period post the 9 months, that they would want to retain that labor. That would be the ideal, because now you've got skilled labor that's productive, and you would want to retain them. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work like that, but I think that we've got more chance of the likelihood of that happening. But that workplace learning then can also contribute to achievement of towards qualifications and at least having a part, having bridged a gap in terms of, certain particular elements of that learning journey that doesn't exist at the moment, which is the workplace learning. So we do try and bridge that gap at the very least. So that's where we come from, and I think that it's the same principle that would apply in a learnership, an apprenticeship, or any formal qualification. So I think that was my only answer that I could.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you, Anthony. That helps a lot. I think I would just add the dimension of social dialogue, which is the principle that we apply in every country. So as we promote just transition and skilling, reskilling, upskilling, job creation and everything, the underlying factor that we need to take into account is to continue maintaining the dialogue between the social partners on the conditions of jobs. So it's not up to us to impose any standard or any direction. This is not in our mandate, but it is our mandate to facilitate dialogues between workers and employers, between unions and associations, business associations, to determine the implications. What are the implications from various points of view? And there is not only the point of view of minimum wage, it could be any other elements around the concept of job. You can relate to safety and health as well as an issue that to be taken into account. And then the whole dimensions of the decency of work, the decent jobs dimension. So to respond to you in a bit indirect way, I know, but what we do is to promote dialogues because those issues can only be discussed through the framework of social dialogue.
We are running out of time. I have two last, very, very last and very brief questions to allow before we break. Can you?
Okay. Thank you. I don't have much questions for the first presenter. I think I support the initiative of creating skills and also supporting SMEs. I think it's something that will definitely help. I have a question for you because because I think because you are an international body, you would be neutral on the thing, so that I'm interested. So I realized your presentation, which was very well drafted. It was very good, well presented. But for me, and I think it was when they came, you showed a slide where you did the study in different countries, so that you can come to the result. And that was very interesting for me because I think that changed the whole presentation. Because when you lump it with other countries, it will kind of somehow, not much, but hide the issues in South Africa, because they will be hidden in that lump with the other international countries. It would have been a very interesting thing if the same presentation was done, but the information used, it's only on South Africa, because the picture was going to change a little bit. Like in your slide, you showed that there are going to be net jobs somewhere. It will be very interesting to tell South Africans that you're going to have net jobs. How, where? If you're gonna affect the industry that employs the most people, and you are saying you're going to have net jobs, that will be very interesting. Everyone will be interested in that. And then just to add what she's saying, you've got a mining industry, for example, that pays a little bit more, give benefits and so forth. When you go on the other side, when you create soft skill, maybe contractors that will build solar plants and that, normally they are on a temporary jobs. They don't have those benefits. You're not going to pay them even the same money that you were paying the other guy on the other side. So those things were not highlighted. I think maybe your argument can be that for one person that was earning 60,000 at a coal mine, I'm going to create 6 jobs for people that I'll pay 10,000 rand per month. Maybe we can, but I think those issues, there are issues that maybe like next time when you present, if you have that information, you can just touch on them. That will be great. Just one last second. You have 2 studies for Free State and Free State is fine. Gertsibande, a very mining area, a coal mining area. Your people there, the Department of DMRE was not involved, or you didn't write, or they were involved. It was very interesting because they are stakeholders that are going to be impacted the most, but the study doesn't include them. How come? Do you have an answer for that? Or why was that so? The biggest stakeholder, the person that's going to be impacted the most, is not part of the study. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yolanda?
Hi, I'm Yolanda from the Institute of Energy Professionals Africa. I want to also come back to the salary scales. I find that we do quite a lot of skills programs with students for energy efficiency and solar. And I'm finding that the students we produce, even though they are of a high quality, they achieve their international certification, the salaries they are offered sort of boils down to abusing the situation that there's so much unemployment. And I'm really, to the forum, I'm putting the question, how do we overcome that? That you have engineers being offered salaries of 4,000 Rand a month, 5,000 Rand a month. And they're not, they're very skilled engineers. And I'm finding that more often we get a lot of inquiries for students. I already know now which people, because we get feedback, which people, what offers they make. There's some real unrealistic expectations. We'll pay you 5,000 Rand, but you must provide your own safety gear, your own safety everything, your transport. Those type of things end up with us, and there needs to be some kind of protection against this abuse of the unemployed.
Thank you, Yolanda. I think both the last speakers, because you didn't really ask questions, you made very valid points that should be considered and debated at a much bigger forum than what we have here today. And like I said, very valid points, very critical issues for consideration. Do you want to comment on any of those?
Maybe just to clarify. First of all, we have those studies. So I was requested to give an international perspective today and a regional one, but we have the study for South Africa, both the one that was done in 2011 and the one in 2018, and I'm happy to share it. It's even on our website. Sorry for not including that. I just thought of giving a broader view, but I agree with you, the figures change a lot in every country. So happy to share. And then the other question was about the provinces. So it was a desk study At the moment, the only stakeholder that we have talked to are the 2 local governments, because they've demanded that study, and it was a desk review. This is now when we enter into consultation, because we need to have something, just not to go with a blank page. So this study, which is purely desk review and consultation with the 2 local governments, will now open up the dialogue, which is our next step, with the different stakeholders. And again, I think we have mapped pretty much everyone, but I'm happy to share my contacts, and if any of you is interested in following the consultations that will start soon, I'm happy to keep you in the loop. Yes, this is a bigger question than what we have the time for today. But this is why we go back to the just transition elements, honestly. And it's just not words. It's really a principle. So we have to look at all the dimensions of job creation, of what is under the word job, which is quality, which is salaries, which is security, which is safety, which is protection. But it's not an easy solution. And I'm just saying that, again, going back to the discussions, working with specific sectors and industries allow that space to concretely discuss what are the challenges and how do we address them. But it's going to be a tough discussion. It's not an easy one. And we have seen in many countries it generates quite animated discussions among the different parties. And the more we struggle with job creation, so the highest the unemployment figure is, the more animated the discussion can be. So I think that, again, it goes back to allow improve in quantity. We have also to ensure that the quantity goes with the quality of the jobs. And this can only come through investment and dialogue among the institutions.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have time for today. We're breaking for lunch now. We will continue the skills development session after lunch with 4IR being the topic under discussion. Thank you very much. Enjoy your lunch.